Hello everyone, and welcome back to Conspiraseed. Tonight's story isn't about UFOs, teleportation, or even shady government projects. It's about something harder to stomach. We're stepping into a case that's as haunting as it is puzzling. The story of Sarah Grace Patrick, a 17-year-old from Georgia, charged with the unthinkable, murdering her own mother and stepfather. But beneath the headlines, there's a fog of questions. Was this a desperate act of hidden pain? A calculated crime cloaked in grief? Or something even stranger, a truth that we haven't glimpsed yet? This one's got layers, whispers of family secrets, and a chill that lingers. Thanks for joining me as we unravel it. Let's roll into it.
Nothing like being subscribed to Conspiraseed on YouTube. Nothing like it.
It's a quiet Thursday morning in the small unassuming town of Tyus, just outside of Carlton, Georgia. A small house sits still in the cool, early morning light. The kind of silence that suggests that nothing's out of the ordinary, that every day will unfold like the last. But inside that house, something unspeakable has happened. A horror that slipped like a shadow, silent and precise. Around 8 a.m., a 5-year-old girl named Jaylee walked into her parents' room. To a child, a sleeping parent's a normal sight, but as Jaylee looked at her mom, Kristen Brock, 41, and stepdad, James Brock, 45, something was wrong. They weren't just asleep, they were actually completely motionless, their lives taken from them in their sleep. The scene was something that no one, let alone a small child, should ever have to witness. In a state of confusion, she goes to wake up her half-sister. The 911 call came from Sarah Grace Patrick, Christine's 16-year-old daughter. Her voice was panicked, breathless, and trembling as she reported the horror. She didn't find them. She was just the one to call for help, to speak to the operator, and to paint the picture of a devastating teen who had just woken up to a nightmare. The front door was found slightly ajar, but nothing was stolen. No windows were broken. It was a scene that screamed inside job. A scene that screamed of an intruder who knew exactly what they were doing and who they were after. In the weeks and months that followed, Sarah didn't maintain a melancholy and fade into the background as you might expect. She quickly became the face of the investigation and the public's perception of a grieving daughter. She was active online, posting a relentless stream of emotional content. On her TikTok, she would post videos with tears streaming down her face, asking for prayers, mourning her star from above mom. Her feed became a public shrine to her parents, filled with tribute posts and photos alongside captions like, "I'll never stop missing you," and "I promise I'll find out who did this." If you watch them now, knowing what's about to come, it's unsettling. Were these genuine expressions of a teenager's raw, unfiltered grief? Or calculated performances, knowing the world is watching and looking for a victim to rally around? She even went a step further, reaching out to true crime influencers, sharing her story. She was proactive, not reactive. She wanted her parents' story told, sharing details with bloggers. Search up the Brock case. They're my parents, and out of nowhere, a random Thursday night in February, someone came in my house with me and my 5-year-old sister and shot my parents, leaving them for me and my little sister to wake up to. She even added that coverage would be a really big hit. It's a detail that, for many, feels cold and out of place for a grieving daughter. At the Brock's memorial service on March 8th at Catalyst Church, Sarah delivered a eulogy. Standing at the podium, her voice breaking, she quoted scripture and said a final goodbye to her mom and James. But there was a hint of unspoken pain, a cryptic line that would later be dissected by investigators and internet sleuths alike. "Your heart will finally be healed in heaven, and neither of y'all will be in pain anymore." It was raw, and it was heartfelt. Or at least it seemed to be. Now, to understand why this case is dividing people, you have to look at the family's past. Because the past holds clues that feel like whispers from a locked room. Kristen and Donald Patrick, Sarah's biological parents, divorced in 2018, after what court records described as a stormy marriage. By 2019, Donald was fighting for emergency custody of Sarah, alleging that Kristen and her new boyfriend, James Brock, were deep into drugs, meth, marijuana, you name it. Court records paint a picture of a chaotic home environment. There were allegations of drugs laying around in plain sight, and sketchy friends just crashing with children present. James himself was on probation for meth possession, a detail that barred him from legally owning firearms. It was during this time that Sarah, at 11, wrote a heart-wrenching statement begging to live with her dad, saying that she loved both parents but simply wanted out. By 2020, they settled on a split custody agreement. Sarah with her father during the week, and with her mother on the weekends. But the tension didn't fade. The volatility continued. In 2022, James accused Kristen of trying to run him over with their 5-year-old daughter, Jaylee, in the car. He even went as far as to file for a protective order, though he later dropped it. While some say that the Brocks cleaned up their act by 2025, getting baptized and becoming active churchgoers, those kinds of deep-seated wounds don't just vanish. They linger, unseen, shaping a young mind in ways that we can't fully grasp. The first few months after the murder were a tense, silent period from authorities. Police played their cards close to their chest. They never announced a suspect publicly. They didn't release the 911 call. They didn't say if they had found the murder weapon. The silence from law enforcement was deafening, fueling public speculation and frustration. But behind the scenes, investigators were meticulously building a case, and they say it pointed straight to Sarah. On a hot day, July 2025, the story shifts dramatically. Sarah, now 17, walked into the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, escorted by her biological father, Donald Patrick. She wasn't brought in by force, she turned herself in. She was arrested and charged as an adult, 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. The sheriff's statement was brief, simply stating that the investigation, backed by the FBI and the GBI, had led them to her. They claimed mountains of evidence, but wouldn't say what the evidence was. No murder weapon was named, no motive was shared. Her defense team immediately pushed back, insisting that there was a rush to judgment against a teenager with a complicated home life. They claimed that there was no direct evidence, no gun in her hand, and no clear proof. Sources close to the investigation hint that the evidence against Sarah isn't necessarily about fingerprints or eyewitnesses, but more about a digital trail. The kind of evidence that can feel far more damning than a confession. We're talking about things like her text message, her search history, maybe even geolocation data from her phone that places her at the scene at a specific time. If that's one of them, though, I will say she lives there. It's been whispered that investigators found things that suggested planning, or at least knowledge, of what was going to happen before she made the 911 call. And remember those tearful TikTok videos and carefully worded eulogy? Some people believe investigators are using them against her, pointing to inconsistencies in what she said publicly versus what she told the police behind closed doors. They're being reframed not as expressions of grief, but as a chilling part of a calculated performance to mask guilt. The reaction from the public has been explosive. Half the people who followed the case say she's guilty. Who else could it be? The other half say this is a teenager who lived in a volatile home and now they're railroading her. Some even think it's possible that Sarah is covering for someone else entirely. Maybe even her biological father, who is now her staunchest defender. Or a friend that she's willing to protect, even if it means risking her own life in prison. Unfortunately, there are still many unanswered questions that keep this case from being a simple, straightforward tragedy. Where is the murder weapon? Why hasn't a gun been recovered, or at least named, if the evidence is so overwhelming? What exactly is this digital evidence? How damning is it, and why have the authorities kept it under such tight wraps? If she did do it, why? Was it the years of resentment boiling over, or was there something else happening in the house that we'll never fully know about? And maybe the darkest question of all, if she didn't do it, does that mean the real killer's been walking free this whole time, while Sarah sits in a cell, waiting for trial? No matter what the jury eventually decides, this case is already a tragedy in every possible way. 2 people dead, a teenager facing life in prison, a family shattered beyond repair. That little girl, Jaylee, now orphaned, is the heart of this tragedy, and I can't shake the feeling that there's more to uncover. What do you see in this twisted web that was woven? A girl driven by pain, a calculated act, a deeper mystery we're only starting to glimpse. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's see if we can piece this one together. Thanks for diving into this one with me today. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, remember to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're not, send it to a friend if you think they'd like it. Hey everyone, editing Cameron here. As I'm editing this and looking at TikTok videos to download or whatever, there's actually an update in the case. A judge, as of yesterday, August 19th, has denied bail for Sarah. So, she's not getting out anytime soon. At least not until she's found... Not unless she's found innocent in a court of law. Otherwise, she's probably in jail for the rest of her life, since she has no bail. Remember to always stay curious, folks. I'll see ya in the next one.